I managed to walk myself right into type 2 diabetes around 1998 when I was just getting close to 50 years old, and followed that food pyramid only to find out years later it was totally false and wrong. And that was a ton of carbs daily, grains and all that in the bottom of the pyramid. And my wife was a nurse. And anyway, 2006, not much longer after that, she got midlife crisis and decided to get a divorce. And I didn't take that very well. I'm the one that gets married for life, till death do us part. And so I made food my comfort. And nobody, when I was diagnosed with type 2, gave me any help with diets. My dad had died prior to that in 1983 in a helicopter accident. He was a doctor at emergency room in West Virginia. He told me that in his 4 years of med school, they had about 15 minutes of nutrition. I think they had one class in it, and it wasn't very much. And so none of my doctors over the years have ever given any help. Just take your meds. And that's what they all say for everything. Like I say, after the divorce, I ballooned my 5'10" frame up to 256 pounds and about 12.4 A1C. So my doc says, well, we're going to have to start giving you insulin shots because your pills obviously aren't very effective. I said, well, I wasn't following, eating very healthily. And so he said, well, then you have to lose weight. So that's the first time I did my starvation diet, skipping supper and limiting the intake. And I got myself down a bit. But then my blood sugars, I think, ran between 8.4 to, I think the lowest ever was 6.7. Finally, in 2015, I had a case of tachycardia. And the doctor at that time had put me on metformin. Prior to that, I'd been on a whole bunch of different Jardiance, Farxiga, and Ozempic, and a bunch of other ones. Anyway, so when he put me on metformin, it really got me. I started getting neuropathy, and then I also had pain in my back, in my neck, and then what felt like lactic acid in my thighs, as if I'd run a marathon and just sat down, no cooling off. I could stand it during the day, but man, wasn't getting any sleep. And so I kept bugging my doctor, and they finally sent me to a neurologist. And he said, why don't we take a little blood and do a little test? I've got an idea. So we did, and nobody told me, but when you take metformin, it crushes your B12. And he says when it gets that low, it was like 3 points above the bottom. And he said when it gets that low, you get nerve damage. And so he put me on B12 pills. I'm surprised he didn't give shots, but after a week and a half of taking the pills, all the pain was gone. And I tossed my metformin in the garbage and told my doctor, put me on something else. And so I was on glipizide ever since. Of course, I didn't realize that causes insulin resistance because it forces your pancreas to make more insulin. Plus, I had to go to physical therapy because I was losing strength in my right leg. This is strange. Going up steps, I had to concentrate and push harder with that leg just to keep from tripping. By that time, I figured that not everybody on the net could be lying about reversing diabetes. Because of being a doctor's son, I trusted doctors far too much and thought this was just a lifetime curse that I had to figure out how to manage. But after seeing all these things all the time on the net, and I'm like, there's got to be something to that. So I started searching for natural ways for some kind of program to help reverse diabetes, and came across a couple more. And the guy has all these smoothies made from super nutrients. I thought, well, I'll try it. And I lost about 18 pounds with it. And then you plateaued again. And it was while I was on that I came across yours and I said, now this sounds like a plan, not just shoot and miss or whatever. And so I got it in March of last year and got the workbook and all that and the supplement thing. And I said, okay. And I got Synachroma and turmeric BP. I took Nevrala just because I know I wanted good circulation, including all the little tiny vessels throughout, because my eyes, I had a lot of trouble, and that's some of your little vessels there again. And diabetes can sure make a mess of everything. And that was one of my impetus to get rid of the type 2 was because of all the trouble I had with my vision. And found out later I had trouble with my heart. They found in 2015 that I had a slight AFib. And so in researching that, they put me on warfarin and metoprolol. And I finally learned from Dr. Saunders that warfarin blocks K2. So I was actually putting calcium in my arteries for those 6 years. And so I had a 1600 score on the calcium score. And I'm like, what? But I've never had any chest pain or any shortness of breath or anything. So I had no idea that was going on. But then when I got on your program last March, didn't take long taking the Synachroma and the turmeric BP and then following the 610 protocol and being very careful counting those carbs and sticking to it. Wasn't long before my weight started dropping off and my blood sugars started going down. And pretty soon I was in the 90s and then 80s and 70s. I even had a few 64s. And I said, I'm trying to reverse the diabetes. I'm on a higher mission. When we tested it, it went from the 6.7 to 5.6 in September. And I was very pleased. And my fasting blood sugar was 83. I'm down to 155. So I've lost 34 more pounds during that past year. Didn't really want to be quite that low, but I'm going to go whatever it takes to get rid of all that fat. And then once the fat's gone and the testosterone can take over, then I will gain weight back because I want to gain back muscle, not fat. Trying to help my brothers with it too, because I've been so pleased with how this worked. And still taking the Synachroma because I want to keep everything sensitive and working well. And the BP because I don't want turmeric, because I don't want any inflammation to head me back in diabetes way. I'm feeling better than I've felt in a long time because now I'm off all meds. No more diabetic meds, no more warfarin, no more metoprolol.
If someone was on the fence and they were considering, should I purchase this diabetes solution kit or should I try these supplements? Give them some advice. What would you say?
I would say don't even take 10 minutes. Get it. It's that inexpensive. It's that useful. Watch the webinar because you'll hear things other people ask that can actually help you at times. And you can ask anything you want on this free webinar. And I've recommended it on Facebook to everybody. I said, you can ask questions, even if you can't watch it, upload them to the moderator and you can get your answers.